was actually speaking to my friend Melanie the other day. She's in the process of writing her book. And she's like, when do I start the PR process? I'm like, now. Start building that list, start following people. I would even go so far as pitching or filling out the application form for some shows because they're so scheduled out. Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renée Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. I am so excited to be here because this is me. It's just me. This is one of my first few solo episodes that I think I'm going to call Wild Tip. And why I wanted to bring these to you is because I listen to so many other incredible women and other podcasters run their show and they just riff. And I'm like, I want to build the muscle to be able to show up with maybe some notes or maybe not and just be able to riff. There's one in particular that I'm thinking of is Emily Hirsch. She has the podcast called Not for Lazy Marketers. And I asked her one day, I go, how do you come up with the ideas for the notes or your speaking points for the show? Do you write them out in detail before you start? Or do you just sit on a mic and riff? And she goes, honestly, Renee, it's just me sitting there kind of regurgitating my thoughts and really just providing the best value I can for my audience. That's what I love about podcasting is it doesn't always have to be scripted. I realize you need to be prepared, but you don't have to read everything word for word. There are some people that do that, and that's okay because sometimes we're on the go as a listener and we don't have time to read a blog post and maybe we'd like something to be narrated for us. But for me, the whole point of doing these wild tips is because I want to bring you some insight. And these are extractions from blog posts. They could be conversations I had, but I thought, I'm really diving deep into this PR marketing space and really teaching people how to build authority and credibility in the world of running a business. And so I wanted to bring this content to you. That's what these wild tips are going to be about. Right now, I can't say I'm going to commit to every week, but I'm definitely going to try. Before we dive in, I do want to jump really quickly to my VIP day. So far, I've been doing a handful of these VIP days a month. And I wanted to kind of bring this to the forefront right now because these have been so much fun for me. So what a VIP day is with We Wild Women is you hire me for an entire day and I helped you create the ultimate PR strategy. So this includes media kit, media list, pitch angles, all the context, all the stuff and assets you need for you and your team to actually do your own PR. Here's the thing. There's a lot of women in business that don't have the budget to hire an expensive agency. My retainer fees can be 3, 4, 5K plus a month. It is a big investment. I understand that the people that can't afford that, they have the budget, they don't have the time. And so maybe you're in a position where, hey, you know what? I got a few hours a week where I can actually do this myself. And so, Renee, teach me all of your wisdom of what it means to actually do PR because I've been doing this for so long. So I have this thing called the VIP day where I dedicate an entire day working with you. Now, realistically, it takes more than a week, but that's okay. I digress. The whole point is that I do the work in that day. And by the end of the day, you have a PR strategy that you or somebody on your team can execute. And this could be a VA, it could be somebody in marketing, it could be even someone more junior, because the way that I approach this program is that I teach you how to do it. And you get access to me for an entire month over Voxer or WhatsApp. So I can kind of guide you along the way during those moments of grief where, you pitch and maybe something doesn't happen and things aren't working or things are, and now you don't know what to do. So the whole point of this program is to give you all of the juicy, awesome assets you need to have you or your team do your own PR And it has been not only so much fun, but extremely effective. So go check it out at wewildwomen.com/VIP day. Now, what I really want to talk to you today about PR is the 5 steps to win at PR for your small business. So whether you've done this before or you're doing it yourself for the first time, congratulations. And I want to say this, PR isn't difficult. It's really not. If you have even one creative bone in your body, you can come up with a decent angle and pitch. It's really about consistency. And I'll be talking about that today. But really quickly, the 5 things that will help you win with PR in your small business. So as a female entrepreneur, we know it's not easy to stand out from the crowd and get noticed in an increasingly saturated market, especially today. But the good news is that PR isn't that complicated. Yes, it can be intimidating. I get it. But it is genuinely effective. So PR is considered earned media. And there's actually stats out there that say consumers trust earned media more than advertising. And I believe it. A really great PR story can pay back in spades. So for me, it's like I coach these women through what it means to actually have a great PR strategy and do PR for yourself. It can be intimidating. I get it. Pitching ourselves is extremely intimidating because it's like saying, hey, look at me, pay attention to me. I want to be on your show, or I want to be on your blog, or I want you to mention me or feature me in a publication. But you know what? You deserve that attention. You deserve the authority in your space because you're building something that is meaningful to you. And you want to get the right people booking your time or hiring your services or buying your product. And PR is the way to do it. So first things first, I don't want you to roll your eyes at this because it is probably something that you're already thinking. What is the number one thing to do is define your goals and your target audience, even if it means going back and reflecting on who your ideal customer is. But you really need to know this for many reasons. Before you get started on anything, you have to have this crystal clear thing that you're working towards, the objective in doing public relations, right? If it's about creating great content, it's about getting on stages, it's about getting on podcasts, it's getting the cover of Forbes, whatever it is, you need to identify why you're doing this and how this ties in to a bigger business sense. So do you want to increase brand awareness? Do you want to generate more leads? Do you want to establish yourself as a thought leader in the industry? Why are you doing this? And how is this helping you achieve your business goals? Once you have a clear understanding of those goals, you can start to identify your target audience in this particular strategy. So who are they? What are their interests, their pain points? What motivates you? I'm actually going to throw it in the show notes, but I do have a defining your ideal customer worksheet, which is something I reflect on almost quarterly. Why this is important? Because it's not like this is creating a business plan. You are trying to identify the podcasts that your ideal customer listens to, the blogs they read, what they're listening to, what they're watching, what they're sharing, what they're paying attention to, because those are the publications you need to get into. Those are the podcast shows you need to get on. So if you don't have that understanding of who your ideal customer is, it's going to be impossible for you to get in front of the right people. I'm talking about going super niche and being specific. That's the best place to start. For me, my number one avatar, her name is Entrepreneur Emily. She's 30 to 50 years old and she makes $100,000 to $200,000 a year paying herself in her business. And while she's not at the spot yet to afford an expensive agency to help her with PR, she can afford some time and an investment into a VIP day. That's what I ultimately want to sell. So I know who she is. Her name is Entrepreneur Emily because I like the EE. I can't even think of the word. But anyway, while I was creating this avatar, I actually realized that there's a real life version of my Entrepreneur Emily. And she's a friend of mine and her name is Jackie. Knowing her so well actually helps me to create the content and the programs that I know she needs to accelerate in her business. And so when you complete that ideal customer worksheet, you'll be able to then identify the places that you need to pitch. And in that, you need to start creating, which is step number 2, building relationships with journalists and influencers. This takes time. I know it takes time. I would say if you're publishing a book, you should start your PR journey at least 6 months out. Like the minimum is 6 months out. And here's why. A lot of podcasts, especially now, they're booked out 6 months to a year. I'm talking about some of these episodes are already recorded, if not, they're scheduled. And if you're trying to condense your podcast recordings as a guest to go out during pub week, which is the week that your book is published, you might be too late if you're pitching 1 or 2 months out. I even argue, like I was actually speaking to my friend Melanie the other day. She's in the process of writing her book. And she's like, when do I start the PR process? I'm like, now. Start building that list, start following people. I would even go so far as pitching or filling out the application form for some shows because they're so scheduled out. It takes time. So build those relationships with journalists. In the PR world, it's not what you know so much as who you know. And trust me, when I say that building relationships with journalists and influencers in your industry can be a game changer for your small business, it's true. Think of them as your allies or your cheerleaders, also your secret weapons. By nurturing these relationships, you'll be able to get your brand in front of a wider audience, gain valuable insight, media coverage, and build your reputation. And so how do you build these relationships? Well, here's the thing. It's about being proactive. It's about being helpful and about being persistent. I'm going to give you a story here. Something that happened recently was super cool. I was reading Scary Mommy. So Scary Mommy is one of the top parenting and mommy blogs in the world. And there was this really awesome article by Emma Coburn about what she would do if she was home alone in her house for 2 weeks. And I thought it was such a beautiful article. So I replied. There was no intention for me in receiving a reply from her, but I emailed her just saying how I loved the post and here's what I would do in my home if I was alone for 2 weeks. And I guess it was so perfect for her that she forwarded to the editor of Scary Mommy, who's Kate. And then Kate emailed me, I guess after doing some research about who I was, and offered me a contributed role, as in writing for the publications, writing for Scary Mommy. And I was like, what? This is how it happens? I didn't know. And so now I have the opportunity to write for Scary Mommy and get paid for contributing the content. I thought, this is crazy. I didn't know this was happening, all because I provided value. And value, in Emma's sake, was complimenting her work. I also did this for a Globe and Mail writer. I forget his name. Oh my gosh. But I sent him an email the other day. He wrote this really, really long, deep article about AI. He was like the first person who was like, here's the reality of it. And it wasn't like a doomsday article, right? Everyone that's talking about AI these days, it seems to be like, AI is going to take over your job. And now all of a sudden, your job's going to be gone. 25 million in the US are going to lose their job because of AI. And he wrote the article in such a beautiful way. I just found his email address and I sent him a quick email saying, thank you for writing that. It was the first non-doomsday article I've read about AI and I really appreciate it. That was it. And he replied saying, thank you, Renée. So with those two instances, now I have relationships with these writers where in the event, if there's something in the future, I can email them and they might remember me or recognize the email address. So this takes time. And this is a big reason why hiring a PR agency will get you there faster because they generally have these connections already. But it is definitely something that you can build yourself. So that is one way to build relationships with journalists and influencers. I always say, if you're going to pitch somebody, go find them on Instagram or Twitter or whatever their most active social media account is and start following them weeks, if not months before you want to actually pitch them. And just get a sense of like, is it their beat? Beat being, is it the type of content they talk about? Maybe they're on vacation during the week that you're going to be pitching, so not to pitch them. So there's a purpose and a reason for following them on social, but really it's just to start engaging with them. So the third thing is to create compelling content. Like it or not, your content needs to be top notch in order for you and your business to get noticed. So this is where your creativity and storytelling skills come in handy. So compelling creative content. So this is whether you're creating a press release or a blog post or an infographic. Your content needs to be engaging, informative, and most importantly, relevant. Relevant to your target audience. So relevant to a journalist, relevant to the people that are listening and watching. So if you're pitching a podcast to be a guest on a show because you like the show and they have a lot of following, maybe what it is that you're trying to pitch about, like your book, isn't exactly relevant to the audience, which is fine, but there is something that you can offer in terms of value to that host's audience. Then your pitch, like your content for this, has to be very specific to that. So when I do a VIP day with my clients, one of the things I do is I write several different pitch angles, whether it's for podcasts or TV, newspapers, galley, whatever it is. And the reason for this is because you have to be fluid in your pitches so that the pitch is very specific, especially for podcasts, very specific to what that host talks about and what the audience members, that the listeners are there for. So if it's a podcast on nutrition, you're not going to go in and pitch them about your auto parts if that's what you sell. But maybe you can talk about how something in your personal life relates to that nutrition. So if you run an auto parts business, the angle could be that you're a female entrepreneur and that you take your nutrition so seriously, my success story, and actually going from like overweight to living a life of vitality, which allowed me to grow my business, is through nutrition. So there's got to be an angle there. You got to make it compelling and super relevant to the host and the readers. And I'm going to go back to this, but social media is so important. And this is actually point number 4, is to utilize social media. In today's digital age, social media and PR work in tandem. Like I mentioned before, not only in connecting to influencers and hosts and your audience, but really how much you need to be actively engaged in at least one social media channel. Because let me tell you, as somebody who hosts a podcast, as somebody who contributes to entrepreneur.com and Scary Mummy, I get pitched a lot. And so I see it on the other side. And part of the thing that I do is actually one of the first places I go to outside of the website is to look at their active social media accounts, because this gives me a sense, especially as a podcast host, to determine if the guest is actually going to be a good fit for my show, not just so much on if they have a huge following or about their story and what they can teach, but really if they can show up and articulate. Like, can they actually speak online? Can they hold a conversation? And I gather that from their stories and their reels and the stuff that they share. So whenever I work with clients, especially for VIP days, I'm like, part of it is you creating a great strategy for your social media. And I'm not saying like be on everything. I'm like, choose a outlet, choose like a channel that actually works for you, that gets you in front of your audience, and then just go deep on it. Own that one outlet, and then use that as a place to send the traffic to. So social media works, again, to reach those influencers and the journalists, but also a way for you to actually amplify your voice, because people are going to go to that channel to decide whether or not they want you as a guest on their show or to put you in their print magazine and whatnot. Finally, the last one on 5 ways to win at PR for your small business is to measure your success. It's important to track your success in your PR campaigns and to make adjustments as needed. There's tons of analytics tools and measurement tools out there, and they're very expensive, but I don't suggest that you use them. Really, you have to come up with your own method to measure what is the key data and the metrics that you need to be monitoring and managing so that this strategy is actually fruitful for your business. It's important to keep your eyes on the goal. So for me, I say generally my win rate, which is how many yeses I get to the pitches, is about 18%. And so I tell my clients, how many podcasts do you want to be scheduled on before your book goes live? They're like 50. Then I have to pitch 350 shows or something like that. So in understanding the metrics and why that's important, then you can work backwards from there. But also you have to create those associations to, my Forbes piece went live and all of a sudden I got 1,000 new followers. And you understand that Forbes piece is the thing that contributed to those new followers. So you have to be measuring everything, because they say what gets measured gets managed. I want to leave you with this. So keep in mind that Rome wasn't built in a day. Success with PR takes time, patience, and dedication. If you keep at it, use these 5 tips. I have no doubt that over time, you will start seeing success. And the other thing to mention too is that while you're doing the outreach and the pitching and researching and finding new contacts and journalists, you also end up finding potential partners, potential speaking gigs, and other things that you never would have possibly thought of. Kind of like how I got that contributing writing opportunity for Scary Mummy. These things happen. And so PR is really a game of patience. It's really a game of always like fueling the fire. The best way to approach it is to find a couple blocks in your week, 1 or 2 hours, and that be the time that you're doing the research, you're doing the pitching, and you're doing the follow-up. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I really encourage you to go check out the VIP day. That's wewildwomen.com/VIP day. If you're interested, you can schedule a call. I can talk about it. I also have really great resources and some freebies on the site too to check out. The last thing I wanted to say is I would absolutely love if you could leave me a review on iTunes. 5-star would be amazing. And a couple quick words about maybe some key takeaways or something, because, well, I don't advertise on this show. One of the things that's really important for me and in continuing to bring content to you is those reviews, and just share it with a friend. Also, if you know of any really kick butt female entrepreneur that you want to hear more of and you think would be a great guest for the show, email info@wewildwomen.com and we will take a look. Anyway, would love your support and some reviews. So head on over to iTunes and scroll on down. Best to do it on your phone. You'll leave me a 5-star review. Thank you. So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renée_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time: the best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.